Hey, I'm Josh Dillon. So, first of all, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to watch this episode. Before we jump into the next podcast, I just want to take a quick moment to explain to you why we started the Creatre cast. 4 years ago, I founded a company with the goal of connecting Africa to the digital economy and the world to Africa. Over time, we realized that this challenge was a lot greater than what we had expected. In order for us to achieve this vision, it required something extremely important: community. It takes a village. That's why we started the Creatre cast, to create a space where we can interview and profile the members of our community and share how they are connecting themselves to the economy and others too. So that's how the Creatre cast became a thing. We made this podcast with the hope of illuminating what is possible for our people and inspiring you to join the African wave yourself. So, I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about what this vision is, but I'm gonna tell you at the end of the podcast, and I'm gonna let you know how you can get involved too. Until then, let's hop onto the wave. Let's start this journey of elevating Africa. It's a pleasure having you here. Let's get into it. But yeah, I'm super keen to have this conversation with you today, Cwenga. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
For anyone who doesn't know, Cwenga is a phenomenal person. She's in charge of so many different things, and I don't want to get too much into it because I know that you are involved in quite a few things. But I wanted to focus more on like your journey as a creative entrepreneur, because I was busy like having a look, scoping the interwebs, and I saw that a title that you had used was Creatrepreneur, and that's like completely in alignment with what we're about here at Creature Community. We're about creatrepreneurs for sure. And I know that that's something that you're passionate about. I know that you're also passionate about film, fashion, music, social impact work. What has your journey been like as a creatrepreneur? What does that mean to you in the first place?
It's been quite an incredible journey getting to where I've sort of arrived at this point in my journey. And I'm at a point where I'm watching different aspects of my life and what I've learned and what I've been involved in kind of weave in together with the different paths I followed, my different degrees and qualifications, all kind of like coming together in the work that I do and in the work that I'm involved in, and how they very strangely, because I kind of thought they all were in silos, but they all kind of complementing each other in like just the different pathways. So I know creatrepreneur for me has, not only been about like creative entrepreneurship, but about the sense of creating something out of nothing. And I think that's the essence of what I've been learning and doing and being involved in, and just watching right in front of me that one little seed of an idea creates a magnitude of something so great. Uncle Vic, who we both know of, would always describe it as an oak tree. I'm literally watching like an oak tree grow out of just a seed that was planted. And as far as my journey leading up to here, and the different stuff that I've been involved in, I would have to say my entrepreneurial journey kind of starts from the point that both my parents are entrepreneurs, and I think I caught the entrepreneurial bug from them. Although I've been like so keen and open to an 8 to 5 job and corporate life or whatever, I've been open to that idea, but somehow the entrepreneurial street just came and caught me, and I kind of just embraced that journey and that opportunity of being an entrepreneur. And so if we're speaking about my entrepreneurial life, which is very tied to my educational life, and as far as varsity, I'm on my third third degree and the third qualification now, which in my second one, I learned of this program called the UNESCO and Women at Your Education and Mentorship Program. And literally, my entrepreneurial journey emanated from that program as my nonprofit company, Talita Together, is birthed from us being successful in that program as the winners of the most inspiring Dream for Change projects last year, March, at the UNESCO and Christian Dior Global Conference. And so that has really spearheaded and launched me into being like a full-time entrepreneur, literally building and growing our brand, our business, our work that we do, which is all about empowering teen mothers in Africa through education and entrepreneurship, because that is something that I've learned personally has impacted my life in an incredible way. And I want those teen mothers to have that same access to the entrepreneurial way of thinking, of creating, of making something out of a skill set, out of an idea, and reaping the rewards of that. So, yeah, that has kind of been my journey as an entrepreneur. I still am at a very early stage, I think, although it's been like almost 2 years now. I think I've still got so much to learn, so much to grow, and they are all right. What everyone says, entrepreneurship is not easy. You really have to you have, thick skin and like a really big sense of determination, always knowing and focusing on your why. I think that's so true. And it's led me to here. But what I'm so grateful for is other entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs like yourself, Josh, being able to be inspired by you guys and learning from you and having this sort of collaborative environment and community that we can literally grow from each other, being part of Value Ed, learning all the things that the skills and the mindset that Value Ed taught me. It literally is all playing such a role in driving my entrepreneurial journey and what I'm achieving in that aspect. So yeah, that's us.
Yeah, what a phenomenal answer to the question. So you mentioned that analogy of like planting a seed and watching it grow into an oak tree. And I can relate to, I think for me as well, we're only a few years into this journey. Entrepreneurship is a long-term journey, right? So if you're talking 2, 3, 4 years, you're still quite at the beginning. At that point, you're probably just seeing a little bit of the sprouts coming out, right? And it's an amazing thing to see, because you water, and you have to wait, and you have to wait. And then over time, you start to see this thing growing. That's, like you said, it's something that's created that wasn't there before, but now is in existence and has an impact in the world. And that's such a phenomenal feeling. And when you bring it back to that whole analogy of the oak tree, right? Entrepreneurship is not easy, like you said. There's going to be storms that come. And what's important is to make sure that the roots run deep, so that when the storms come and when the tree is shaken, it doesn't fall over and it stays upwards. And something that you mentioned was like your upbringing with your parents and how both of your parents are entrepreneurs. I feel like that's a very rare thing. I don't know anyone else who can say that both my parents are entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurs at that too. So relating it back to that whole discussion about like the oak tree and the roots running dry, would you say that your parents are a reason that you have those roots there in the first place? And as someone who is in that unique position of having two parents that are entrepreneurs, most people that are watching this won't be in that situation. You've probably learned a lot of things from them. What kind of things have you learned that have kind of created those roots for you?
I'd say from my dad, who I've watched more closely on his entrepreneurial journey for most of my life, I have learned that being patient with the process is literally a key, lesson, because, I've watched him have seasons of, highs and lows, times where the business is doing well, sometimes where the business is not doing well, especially over COVID. And, it was hit hard. So learning to be patient and persevere, having that developed character to go through and withstand those storms, is definitely a key lesson that I've learned from my dad's entrepreneurial journey, and that he's taught me. And then on my mom's side, I'd definitely say, so she's played a key role. I'd almost say, as a mother, she's held my hand through my whole entire entrepreneurial journey and process, and she's really taught me the value of relationships, of collaborating with other people, with other entities, with other organizations, and she's just shown me how important the people are in that process, in your entrepreneurial process. She's in the consulting, change management space, so dealing with people and just values and ethics and all of those important stuff that we kind of undermine when we think entrepreneurship, making money, and all of that. So that's been really rooted in that understanding that it takes time, it takes patience, but it also takes mobilizing the right people with the right heart and the right understanding, who have that same vision and same value as you, to walk the journey with you. And that, yeah, it takes time, but it's a beautiful process, especially when you walk with the right people. That quote that says, if you want to get somewhere fast, walk alone, but if you want to go far in life, walk with people. So yeah, that has definitely been the two values and lessons I've learned from both my parents' our entrepreneurial journey that has informed my own.
And that social element is so
Yeah.
important, right? The relationships that you build with people, that
Mm.
community. And that's literally how we met, is through this
Yes.
community. We both have ties to
Yeah.
Evaluate as an online learning platform, and that's how we
Yeah.
met. And look at us today, right? Having this conversation about two businesses that are owned by
Yeah.
young South African individuals that are currently thriving and
Yeah.
growing, and slowly but surely having a bigger and bigger
Yeah.
impact in this
Mm.
world. And that stuff wouldn't be possible. And you mentioned in the beginning, when you just opened as well, like how you value that, and how community is such an essential part of it. And something that I've noticed, with that social element, and coming back to what you're talking about with your mom and teaching you the value of relationships, like it's also important to give
Yeah.
back, right? Because we gain a lot from these
Mm.
communities, but they can only thrive
Mm.
when people also put back into
Yeah.
it, because then other people
That's
gain
right.
from that community. So it's a two-way
Mm.
street. So, and I know that's something that's heavily at the center of Talita
Yeah.
Together,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of the other projects that you've been working on as well. So, in order for us to build this community as well, something that we do at JD Creations is focus on connecting Africa to the digital economy, right? And the world to Africa, because we live in a global community. And because of the digital space and the digital revolution that we're currently undergoing, that global community is becoming more and more integrated on a daily basis. I can sit here and do a podcast with someone who's on the other side of the world. I mean, last night I had a meeting with the clients that's based out in the
Mhm.
US,
Mhm.
and that wouldn't have been possible a couple of years back. So, because we have this technology, it's opened up so many opportunities for us. And it's not just technology, it's also initiatives, like you touched a little bit on the Dior and UNESCO
Mhm.
initiative. So I wanted to just find out from you, in terms of Talita Together, the social impact business that you started, that's heavily centered around social entrepreneurship. How do you see Talita Together serving as a bridge between Africa and the global economy?
Mm. Mm. Um. So what I would say, Talita Together is acting as that bridge, is our investment in young girls and young women, because I believe women are the backbone of the global economy. It's women that really are driving homes, are driving society, are driving nations. And with us recognizing that there are social issues, especially in our country as South Africa and Southern Africa, that lead towards young teenage girls falling pregnant, we're saying that despite that occurring and despite that happening, and despite the many reasons that lead to that happening, how can we put together resources? How can we give these girls access to education and opportunities, entrepreneurial opportunities that relate to tech? How can we literally give them that chance to become something of themselves that they too can contribute meaningfully in society while raising younger generations? So we're not just investing in young girls, we're investing in their children as well by empowering these teen mothers with opportunities that we ourselves were very privileged to get access to. And so by us investing in them and believing in them and sowing that seed of hope, as many of these girls, their dreams die with having a child. Their dreams fall away, and suddenly they're isolated, stigmatized with society, abandoned by family, by their partners, whoever impregnated them. Like, they're alone with a child, and yet they, I believe, are the key to a thriving economy when they have the power to have be in decision making environments, and they have knowledge, they're young, they have these big dreams that can really contribute to our economy, but they just are going through such a hard time, and balancing all these dynamics and trying to overcome personal sort of self-esteem issues that have been affected in the process. And so there's so much that the teen mothers of our nation, which are many, that so many South Africans don't realize. We almost have 100,000 teen mothers, which are girls who are younger than 20 years old, who are mothers. So we are connecting them to the global economy by empowering them with these resources, with education, because we know and believe that it's in these young women and in these young girls that can rise up, as our name means, Talita Together, young girls rise. We believe that they can rise up above those circumstances, above those challenges, and still make a great impact and still contribute to the global economy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you're connecting these young girls to the global economy, but also what I see you doing is connecting the world to these young
Yes,
girls and the global economy to these world.
absolutely.
Because when we look at the wealth that's out there, right, it's one of the biggest challenges that we have in South Africa is
Mm,
inequality. So there is wealth. There's wealth in
mm,
Africa. It's just not
yeah,
distributed
yeah,
correctly. And through what I see through initiatives like To Lead Together is it helps with that
yes,
distribution. And this also ties into this conversation of creative
yeah,
entrepreneurship, being a creatrepreneur, because when it comes to the challenges that we face, when I think about creativity, right, I think about restrictions. Because if you're going to tell me to do something and you're going to give me unlimited resources or any resources that I would need to
mm,
complete it, then the possibilities are
yeah,
endless, right? I don't really need to be creative in the way that I handle the situation because I've got access to
yeah,
everything. Whereas if you give me limited resources, if you say, I want you to do this, but you only have access to this, that
yeah,
forces creativity. You're operating in this box and you're trying to figure out a way to get
yeah,
out of it, right? And you have to get creative to do
mm,
that. And when people talk about Africa, we're always talking about
yeah,
problems, right? And I often think to myself, the challenges that we face in Africa are actually our superpower because we have to go through we have to jump all of these hurdles in Africa that people in Europe and people in the US or wherever in first world countries don't necessarily have to even
mm,
think about. And because we have to kind of navigate these things, whether it be load shedding or crime or corruption or whatever it is, or safety issues, whatever it is, we have to navigate, and that's our
mm,
box, which forces us to be creative. And that's why I believe that Africa has something different to offer the
mm,
world. But the only challenge is that, like you said, people don't get the opportunity to offer that to the world. We don't get the opportunity to extract value from that creativity, from these experiences that we go through, because we don't have the opportunities. We're struggling to we're struggling with
Yeah.
self-image. We're struggling with safety, with thinking about how am I going to eat
Yeah.
my next meal, even,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So seeing these initiatives really gives me
Mm.
hope, because it's like if we can unlock those
Yeah.
minds, then like you said, they can also offer value to the global
Mm.
economy, and that value will be experienced and enjoyed by everyone
Yeah.
on the globe. And I think that's amazing to think about, that Africa has so much to
Oh
offer the
yeah.
world. And it's good to see that countries abroad and institutions
Yeah.
abroad can also see that and are investing
Yeah.
in it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And, you know, something that's also important, like with this whole discussion, is like, in order to be able to be creative and to be able to use your talents and your skills to add
Mm.
value, something that's important that we touched on quite a bit here is kind of like
Yeah.
mentorship, whether it be from your
Mm.
parents, or whether it be from a community member in a platform like
Mm.
Value Ed, or whether it be learning from your
Mm.
peers, like through this conversation that we're having right now, and hopefully the people listening
Mm.
in. You know, that mentorship and role of education is super, super important. And I know you've just come back from
Yeah.
France, right? Not everyone has the opportunity to go and travel abroad, number one. And not everyone has the opportunity to travel abroad and interact and get advice and have
Yeah.
conversations with people in
Mm.
organizations such as UNESCO or
Mm.
Dior. So I wanted to just chat to you about your trip abroad and kind of just get a sense from you, like, what the significance of that trip was for you, and how does it tie into this whole like story about connecting Africa to the world and the world to Africa.
Sure. I'm gonna have to try not get so emotional about this one, because I recognize, and it's at the core of my being, that um I am so grateful, and I recognize so much that it's really very, very few young, like Black women that get opportunities and access to go abroad. And that's why I feel so indebted to the likes of, Dior and UNESCO, who have created this amazing program that has literally unleashed like my potential to go to such an environment and a place, the likes of the global conferences, to share about what it is in Africa on a local level, the issues that we're dealing with, and the solutions that we have to, that problem, and having them, you know, open up their minds about how they could help on a global level, and how they could address and sort of meet the needs to really make a better difference. And so, firstly, on the first time I had the privilege to go to Paris, and to attend the UNESCO and Women at Dior Global Conference last year, March. It was, to pitch our initiative, to pitch our idea, as that's how the program was designed, that was the ultimate, end to the entire program, is the finalists who were selected from the Dream for Change projects to pitch their initiatives, which were basically social impact projects that were around the emancipation of young girls and women in our local communities. So when Talita together, chose me to go and pitch on that platform, it literally meant the world, because I was there representing teen mothers. I was there representing their voices, and appealing to a community of people in a first world economy, and of people who have that privilege, that there is a whole nation filled with young women who equally have that same potential to be great, but don't have that step, that ladder to get there. And so we, that's the heart of what we're saying through Talita Together, is that, we're recognizing, we're seeing that these girls have that it in them, that dream. Dior is all about, creating dreams and making them come to life and come true. And so our dream for young women in Africa, and young girls who encounter teen pregnancy, is to be something great through education, through advancing their lives, through personal development. And so to be there, it not only I not only went through my own sense of like needing to mentally advance and be like, oh, you are able to go to that platform. There's a lot of self-talk and the self-belief that I equally had to instill in myself to think I can stand on that stage. I can pitch to LMBMH and Christian Dior Couture and UNESCO about young women in Africa, and that, you know, I can raise that voice, and be that person who represents them. And so it was really on a personal and also on like a national level, very, very significant, representing on a continental level Africa as a whole. And again, this year, you know, they invited me to, you know, sort of speak and testify about what progress Talita Together has made. And it was just so profound that we could stand there having said, we left here last year March. I left here with just an inspiring project, but now I come back as a non-profit company that is registered and that is impacting the lives of more than 150 teen mothers. So to see that progression, to see that seed actually growing and coming to life, that a year later I can go, and I was blessed with that opportunity to go back and testify that what was established here is actually making an impact. These young girls are actually, benefiting and are becoming better people. And it's something else when you tangibly can see, we meet these girls who don't know about us and don't know who they can become after encountering such an organization as Talita Together, and we meet them at a place where they're in a lot of pain, and they're hurting about their situation, that they're in school uniform with a belly that is bursting out, and amongst other peers and all that comes with that, and home situations. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of a girl in mind that we've helped on our in our program and on our journey, whose life has been so exponentially changed, and today she is such a confident young woman, and such a confident young girl who has her voice and has believed in her dream, in wanting to become a doctor, and is motivated to study and to complete her matric. So being on that platform, both occasions, last year and this year, has literally brought to life, it has brought to flesh impact and change, and it has really begun to manifest the greatness that is in each and every teen mother and pregnant girl that we've encountered. And that's what the significance of that trip has been. It was never about Cwenga in Paris. It's never about like the hype around, what people might think as like, oh, Paris, Dior, whatever. No, there's a huge purpose to being there, and it's one that is meaningful and empowering to young women who are affected by the plight of teen pregnancy. And it's, yeah, having also been there, being part of a community, there's a genuine sisterhood through the Women at Dior program. There's a genuine, people who have attended, the delegates from UNESCO, the people, the actual employees at Dior, the workers, the teams, like, they are genuinely interested in building relationships and seeing how can we help. Today, I'd still reach out to the same people I met at the conference to be like, hey, there's this opportunity. Can you nominate us for this, or can you help us with this application, or can you? And it's beautiful to see how we've established that global community and that global sisterhood from this program, and from being there and bringing that home. It's very touching. It's very moving to unite different hearts across the globe, and different people who care about the same thing and the same people, and to see what change that has brought. So yeah, it's life-changing, not only for our teen mothers, but definitely for myself as well. My life has been changed because of it.
That's beautiful. I feel so blessed to hear that story from you, Cwenga. And also even the little bit that you touched on with the lady that you had in mind. in terms of how she's now
Yeah.
inspired and
Mm,
motivated and has the energy to go out and pursue a career in
mm.
medicine. I think that's phenomenal, and I know there's
Amazing.
many other
Yeah.
stories out there, and we're going to touch a little bit more on the whole thing about
Yeah.
stories and the importance of like
Yeah.
storytelling. But before we do that, like the reason why someone out there has that kind of ability to be able to push through the challenges that she's
Mm,
facing to go and pursue a
mm,
medical career is largely in has to do with your
mm.
guidance, right? And what
Yeah.
you've done. And that's obviously been passed on from what's been invested in you and has been passed on to her. Um, so I just and that the reason why I want to bring that up is because it's really about
Yeah.
mentorship, right? It's the mentorship that you got from your
Mm,
mom, you know, the mentorship that you got from the
mm,
community and the
mm,
network that you've been exposed to at this kind of
mm,
event. Um, just before we move on, what are some of like the tidbits, like the lessons that you've taken away from that
mm.
mentorship? Because, like I said, not everyone has the opportunity to go to these places and have access to
Yeah.
these people. So this platform gives us the opportunity to us as lucky people who have
Mm,
access to certain
mm.
networks to be able to share the things that we've learned from those networks and also impart
Yeah.
it on. So, what would you say are kind of some of the mentorship lessons that you've learned
Mm.
from your involvement in this project?
Sure. Um, there are many, many, many different lessons that I've learned, but key ones that I'd say are worth mentioning is that the mentorship that I've experienced on a personal level, from the mentorship of my mom to the different mentorships that I've had of different women I've encountered, is that it's really important to have a teachable spirit and to literally be open-minded to learning something new and to receiving knowledge and wisdom from people who have experience, having the fertile ground, having a heart that receives this information and this knowledge, and that's not quite closed off, in terms of mindset, is so important as a mentee, and starting off there, because I think mentorship is such an empowering, and it's an empowering tool, and almost the best thing that could really happen. I know so many lives that have been changed just because of a mentor and because of mentorship, and so I would say that, I've also been empowered with knowledge around, um, you know, what possibilities are out there. I think we sometimes, at least as South Africans, we're always uh, are here at home in the circumstances of load shedding, of the different social economic issues that our country faces, of corruption and all of that. And so we kind of forget that there is so much more. Our mindset becomes so narrow. And so mentorship and just hearing from another person, and learning from another person, it opens your mind. You start believing that, oh, I can actually go to this country and make an impact, and come home and bless a community of young women. Oh, I actually can study this. I can be part of the likes of Value It and have access to these opportunities. It just broadens you, so much so. And so learning that life is not narrow, your path is not linear. There's so much out there in the world, and there's so much more than just the room and the space that you're in, has also been quite important. And yeah, like the one consistent thing I've seen with the mentorship, from the program to mentorship on a personal level, are values. Values are so important, and they literally are what drive people, relationships, organizations. I mean, Dior had their own values for their program, because that's what underpinned values to their program, which were involving sustainable development, inclusion, sorry, creativity, and self-care and self-awareness, all of these values that I also was so privileged to learn from my own personal mentorship journey, and which are values and things that we're trying to implement and drive through Talita together. And so it's very, very important, learning these things such as empathy and integrity, leadership. It just cultivates so many vital values that one needs to have. And yeah, I would definitely say that mentorship has also, helped in terms of personal development. As I was saying, it not only broadens your mind, it also implements these values that make you believe in a brighter future for you, for your life, and for society as a whole, and for the community that you wish to impact. So holistically, it does work that school cannot teach you. It does work that university does not provide, that you cannot pay for these things. It's not in a book, it's not in a textbook. That's what mentorship does. It cultivates those life lessons and those key understandings that you need to have about yourself, and about the possibilities that are out there. And yeah, it just develops this beautiful sort of channel of hope within yourself, understanding you have the ability, the potential, and then actually making that impact and that difference in other people's lives. Yeah, mentorship is amazing. I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, so as you were talking, Cwenga, something that I know is an important part of your story is the degree that you studied, right? You studied film and television, and you're currently continuing your studies in that space. And I know that through Dior and the initiative that you've been a part of, a large part of that is about telling the story of Dior and also telling the story of Talita together. So I wanted to ask you, just being someone who's in the film space, and who operates as an entrepreneur as well, how important is storytelling in your journey? And how does your work in acting, presenting, audio visuals, how does that come into play in terms of the business that you've created?
Yeah, great question, Josh, and thank you so much. Once again, I have quite a loaded response regarding that, and it's a question that someone who was also interviewing me sort of asked me, and I was a bit startled by it because I was like, I have no clue how my theater degree, how my film degree, and now my master's in digital curation all helps me support and empower teen mothers through education and entrepreneurship. I have no idea the connect, and I'm on this journey to finding out. But what I have seen, is that there is a very powerful and a very profound story that is being written with the mothers, the teen mothers of Africa that exist within Southern Africa that we are focusing on. They have a story. These young girls who have encountered teen pregnancy at an early age have a very powerful story, each and every one of them. They each have a voice, they each have a life, they have a very powerful story. And it's a story that I have invested in emotionally and as an individual, as a social entrepreneur, but how my degrees and my experience and exposure to the likes of film and television studies, the likes of my theater degree, the likes of the opportunities I've been given through Dior, that is now giving me the ability and the platform to capture those stories, be it through physically recording the experiences, capturing content for our social media pages, for our website, I have that insight, I have that knowledge as to how to curate um, content and how to record and film, and that's something I go into those spaces being able to do, but more so having the insight to understand what is the story at hand, what is this telling the world, what is the fact that there are teen mothers in Africa, there are pregnant girls in Africa who are under the age of 18 or 19 years old, and there is an issue at hand regarding their standing with education, regarding their standing with employment, with their careers, etc., because of this issue, because of the social issues that have led to their pregnancy, because of issues around lack of education and lack of access to information. There's so much to tell, and so I'm coming at it from many different angles, and I'm recognizing that within Africa there are stories within each and every young pregnant woman and pregnant girl. And as a creative who has film under her belt, who has acting under her belt, how am I going into that space as a social entrepreneur? How am I going into that space where these stories are being written, where these girls are embodying so much within them, both physically through a baby and both through experience as to them being mothers now? How do I go into that space and record that, like, within myself, but also capturing it through digital devices, etc.? And so that is my experience in as far as understanding that, oh wow, there are very profound stories here, and the depth of it is going to come when we are able to film documentaries and we're able to have events where these very teen mothers are able to stand and testify and tell their story on their own, that through encountering Talita together, through encountering organizations such as Dior that have had the heart to invest and engage with these young girls, to say, you know what, we want to see you still reach your dreams, your career goals, your everything. We want to hear your story in like 10 years, in 5 years, as to what our investment and what our interest and our care and concern has resulted and has done for you in your life. So there's powerful and profound stories that are happening, but we're investing in these girls being able to tell their story one day as young African women who are pursuing their dream jobs or their dream businesses, entrepreneurs. We know we've got, as Talita together, we've done our research. We've gone into schools with these pregnant moms who have all told us, I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a story. I have all of these things, but I need the people, the resources to be able to actually fulfill that dream. And that is now the power through which I'm entering into that space. And that's the power and the effect that us going into these cities and these townships and finding these girls is going to be able to do, is to tell their story, and to share that story with the world, that we're changing the lives of these teen mothers and we're giving them the platform to share their story, and what we're doing is just sharing their story from wherever we can. And so that is essentially what I'd say my degrees and also my experience and exposure and the power of storytelling is doing within the lives of our teen mothers.
Okay, awesome stuff. So I was just going to ask you, we've been chatting for quite a while now, and I just wanted us to end off with one last question. And I think this is a really great way for us to end off. So I know that something that's been really important for you and has been a big influence in your journey is your late grandmother and how she's inspired your work. And I just wanted to ask you, when it comes to pursuing your passions, whether it be the love of presenting and film and television, or whether it be through Talita and together, how do you feel like that inspiration that you got from your grandmother and her story has been meaningful in the impact and personal fulfillment that you experienced throughout your journey?
Sure. Um, I'm trying not to get emotional just thinking about her. But honestly, Josh, I'd say having had the privilege of living with my grandmother for 15 years of my 24 years of life, she instilled like so much within me, values, a sense of faith, relationship with God. She taught me how to serve people. I learned how to have a heart of servitude through my grandmother. A sense of discipline, a sense of like honesty, having a heart of passion, of relationships. That's something she instilled within my mom, and further my mom instilled in me, but she also directly instilled those within my life. And it's amazing because the most stories I ever heard in my life, in daily bits of life, was through my grandmother. She always had stories for me. I think my first encounter of stories and understanding the power of storytelling was through my grandmother. And, and as we'd know that in a lot of oral traditions, it was through the grandmothers and the mothers that would share these profound stories, And so getting to understand who my grandmother was in her days as a woman who headed a fashion boutique in a small town in Mthatha. And my mom even working for and at the shop at the fashion boutique, and her knowledge around quality fashion and the business of fashion and clothing, definitely, and also as a single mother, who cared for her children so much, and as an entrepreneur also who went into farming and selling milk, etc. Her life story and the values and the experience she learned, and those aspects of her, of being an entrepreneur, of being a single mother that's just living to serve her children, of being a businesswoman who knows the skill of fashion and all of that, the essence of who she is and the stories that she had and the life she lived. She shared that with me for 15 years, and she shared who she was, and grounded me in those important aspects of life. And now, after her passing, I have directly benefited, and I'm literally living out the blessings and the privilege of those stories and values being imparted to me as a young Black woman in the space, the creative space, in the entrepreneurial spaces that she was also within. And I am sure and can safely say that the dreams that she passed away having, the dreams she had for me, and that she wished for me, and the blessings and the prayers that she made for me, I'm living them out now. And I think that's the effect, and that's the value of knowing how important grandparents and parents are, and the connection and the storytelling, because there's something within them that directly connects to you and your life, and it's about valuing that and taking that all in when the opportunity is there. Because now, after her passing, my life, and presently and currently, I'm literally seeing all that she sowed within me coming to fruits, that it's growing that oak tree that we had spoken about. It's what is driving that growth. It's driving that experience. It's driving the heart of my organization. All of those things she had imparted in me. It's what I am living and breathing through, getting those understandings, those learnings, those stories, and living them out to creating my own one that's unique and that is special and that is impactful for my generation in time. So that is what I would say. And thank you for that question, as emotional as it's made me. Yeah, that is the impact my grandmother had. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. And we're standing on the shoulders
yeah,
of giants,
yeah.
really. And it all comes down to legacy.
Yes,
The passion and hard work that your
yeah,
grandmother put into building herself has been imparted onto you and
yeah,
your mom. And through the journey that you're on, it's being imparted on the people
yeah,
whose lives we are touching on a
yeah,
daily basis. And it's so important for us to pay it forward. And I think that's why we have these things like this podcast, to pay forward the things that we've learned through our journeys and to share that with anyone who's
yeah,
willing to listen. And I think that's what's so important about the legacies that we're building
yeah.
as well. So, on that note, Cwenga, thank you so much for being
Thank you.
vulnerable and sharing your stories with us. I know that people listening to this are going to take something
Yeah,
away from it. And I hope that that can be a seed and kind of maybe be a foundation for anyone else to start building what they're
yeah,
working on. And if you're someone who's listening to this and you feel like you've gained something from this, or you want to also pay it forward, or if you want to just kind of get in touch, there's always means and ways to do that. I mean, we've got the Creator community pages that you can contact us on. We've got my personal pages as well. Cwenga, I don't know if you want to just share where we can get hold
yeah.
of you.
I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram at Koyana. So that's CKATKOYANA on Instagram, and then it's Cwenga Koyana on LinkedIn. And you can also follow our page for Talita Together at Talita Together. That is at TALITH, and then together TOGETHER. There we go. That's us. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Cwenga, for taking the time. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the
Thank
next
you so
one.
much, Josh. This is great. Appreciate you.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. My hope is that we have illuminated what is possible for you. My hope is that we've inspired you to start your journey of elevating Africa in the global space. It is possible. At the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned the African wave. This is it. We are creating a platform for the elevation of Africa in the global space. If you want to join this wave, but you're not too sure where to start, I'd like to encourage you to find out more about the Creatre community. Our community is founded on 3 pillars: coaching, connecting, and culture. Through these pillars, we hope to create a point of convergence for future leaders of Africa. If you are a leader and you want to be a part of this movement, please visit our website. You'll find courses of finding your online voice and seeing when our next networking event is coming up. We're excited for you to join our journey in connecting Africa to the digital economy. But until then, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for watching, and bye.